All right, everybody, this is Dragon's Bane. I am doing a video that has never been done before. This is the invention blueprint, and my buddy Donnie is going to be hosting it for me because I already have 120 invention and there's no blueprints left for me to unlock. He's going to show you by a process that I use that guarantees a perfect every single time. There is a way of doing it. It is not random. It's a process. You just have to do it right. So we're going to start this off, and he's going to show you the first part of it, which is literally easy as hell. So go ahead and pull up an invention. How's your potion? What time you got on the potion? Just drink another sip. There you go. Now pick one. Doesn't matter. All right. Now what he's doing right now is he's just going to put random ones in. There is no pattern for this. This is 100% random here. So you just keep putting them in until something comes up and says, hey, we got a great idea. So there you go. He's got the perfect one. So now you put all of them down randomly, and he's got a satisfaction. So what he's going to do is go from number 1 to number 2, and he still has a satisfaction, so he's going to put it back. Number 1 to number 2 is put back and stays satisfaction. Number 1 to number 3, and it's still satisfaction. So he's going to repeat it again. Number 1 to number 4. This keeps you from constantly going into a random. So we now know, since it went to poor, that number 4 is likely in a good spot. What did you just do, number 5? Okay, so now he's going to move from number 5, which was the first one. He's now going to move to number 2. So number 2 to number 3. All right, number 2 to number 3 is less, which means it's good, not very good. So we want to repeat it back to where we were. Number 2 to number 4. Okay, it's less. So number 2 to number 5. Now what this means is number 2 is correct because number 2 is very good. So now we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3 to number 4. Number 3 to number 5, switch it back. And now number 3 to number 5. So it went down. So we know that those two are likely right. So go ahead and switch it back so it's very good. And now you're going to go to number 5 to number 6. Or number 4 to number 5. I apologize. Okay, so that means that's poor. So we're going to repeat, go back, put those back, and we're going to go to 2. So we know 1 is correct. So number 3 is going to go to number 3 and number 1 and see if that's incorrect. Is that a perfect? All right, let's do it again. Repeat. No, complete it. Let it go through. There you go. Do another one. I'm going to show it again so that people can see there is a pattern. Pick one of them, any of them. Random down. Remember, this part is completely random. There is no pattern for this, and it's completely different for everybody. All right, all of them down. What do we got? We got a poor. That means everything is most likely in its wrong place. So number 1 to number 2. Number 1 to number 2. Number 1 to number 3. You see how he keeps putting the piece back? That's important. You want to keep the piece back because otherwise you're going to keep repeating yourself and have to do it all over again. So you're literally making it random. There is a pattern. Number 2 to number 3. See how it went bad? So we know number 2 is likely right. Number 2 to number 3. Number 2 to number 4. What we're doing now is verifying. So now we know that number 2 was not right and that this one is right because it went better. That means that particular position is better. So now we're going to go ahead and skip right over the rest of them and go right to number 3. Number 3 to number 4. All right, switch it back. Number 3 to number 5. And so now we're going to do number 3 to number 1. Yes, we do go back just to verify. And 3 to number 2 just to verify. Okay, so we know the likelihood is number 3 is correct. Move on to number 4. Number 4 to number 5. So we got a very good, and I believe we was good, right? I can't see the screen, so was we good or very good? Okay, so now we're going to take number 5 to number 1. Okay, switch it back because number 5 to number 1 is not correct. Number 5 to number 2. Number 5 to number 3. Number 5 to number 4, again, and switch it back. Now we're going to go back to the beginning, start with number 1 to number 3, number 1 to number 2, number 1 to number 4. And there you go. Perfect. Do it again. I don't know if you guys are understanding my pattern, but the way this works is you're constantly making sure you're not doing the same thing over and over again. So you keep going on until it gets better and better, and then you start over again and repeat the same process, going back to the very beginning and getting a perfect or getting an excellent. Now remember, when we get this excellent, which is the one I want to show you, that means there's only one out of place. That means you have to literally do that whole thing all the way through and hope you get that random chance that you find that one that was missing. One of them is out of place when you get an excellent. The other means there's 2 out of place, and so on and so forth. So right now we're at 4. That means everything is out of place. All right? See how he's doing this? Make sure you say these out loud, what you're doing. Number 1 to number 5. All right. Say them out loud when you're clicking them so they can understand what you're doing. Like I was doing number 1 to number 2 and so on. All right. So, yes, that's correct. So now you do the next one if this is the better position. Number 2 to number 3. It's poor. Number 2 to number 4. See that? It went to very good. What that means, there's only 2 to 3 that are incorrect. So we're going to skip right over the rest of them and go right to the middle, number 3 to number 4. All right, so number 3 or number 4 is likely in the right position. Number 4 to number 5. You did the wrong one. 4 to number 5, or 3 to number 5. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. 3 to number 5. All right, so that's lesser. So we're going to do number 5 to number 1. We're going to start all over again. See, that's excellent. That means 1 is out of place. And since it went up, that means the one it's in right now is most likely correct. So now we're going to go directly to number 2. Go directly to number 2. No, there you go. See? It's really easy. You'll recognize the pattern as you keep doing this the way I'm doing it. So you always start at number 1, and then you go to number 2. Number 1 to number 3, and number 1 to number 4. Whenever it gets better, that's when you do it. Hey, listen, here's another tip for everybody. Stop doing your blueprints. Stop, and listen. All right, so the great thing about blueprints is you can use them on DXP. So what you want to do is you want to look up everything that you can unlock. You can unlock things early with an extreme potion like he has done. And you want to unlock only things you're actually going to use. Because if you're not going to use it or you don't think you'll need it right now, save it for DXP and you'll get double the experience. It's the only thing that you can get instant double experience on. So during DXP, normally how it works is you get 50% additional experience to any weapon that you have augmented or tool that you have augmented. That means it levels up 50% faster, not 100% like everything else in the game, because it's an elite skill. So to get around that, you do blueprints and you add an XP capacitor to your inventory. They run around about 2.3 to 2.6 million. You can also make them yourself if you want. And how they work is they give you 100%, or not 100%, but 100,000 experience to your item. So whatever you would normally get, let's say if you kill a monster and it gives 150 experience, it will give you 75 more experience, and then double XP will give you another 75. So you're technically getting 100% additional experience. So the XP capacitors are a must-have if you want to train quickly. And they're really easy to use. You put them in your inventory and you tell it to activate. It will use up the experience on its own. They're very cheap and they will level you very fast and save you a lot of money. Augmenters are already $500,000 or more. These are $2 million. That means you're not going to need to use an augmenter or a siphon as often. I mean, you will, but you won't have to spend as much time trying to train the weapon and everything else. So you'll be able to level up a lot faster and get to the higher levels where you can actually start making profit with the perks and the inventions and things like that. So this was my guide with my help of Donnie on how to be able to get a perfect every time on a blueprint. Remember, use an extreme potion if you're trying to get to that blueprint that you really need. Don't unlock a blueprint with the blueprint bench unless you're actually going to use it, because you don't really require it. So save it for DXP and get that extra experience. All right, well, I'm signing out. I want to thank everybody for your help, and I appreciate it. Donnie, say goodbye. All right, you can end the video.